It's like there was a voice in my head arguing with me, and I couldn't shut that voice up. I realized I was like, I think I have, I think I'm not well. We had only just began a relationship, a romantic relationship, before deployment.
He's shipping out, and he said, "Don't worry, I'm coming back. This is like a vacation tour. It's no big deal." It was August 11th, 2001. So it was a month before September 11th. I was asleep. It was like I was in California, and it was about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I worked retail, so that's not time to get up yet. And the phone kept ringing, and my roommate's like, "It's your mom." I'm like, "Whatever, let her leave a message." And it just kept ringing. She finally said, "You've got to answer the phone." So I answered the phone, and she said, she was crying. She was hysterical. I couldn't understand anything she was saying. She said, finally, I get out of her. She's like, they've attacked us. Like, all kinds of crazy things are coming out of her mouth. And I finally get it. She said, "Turn on the television." So I turn on the television, and I see, I turn it on right before the plane crashes into the second tower.
We're in the pub, you know, knocking back cold ones, eating. They cooked all this food for us. It was a great party. It was my birthday, so super celebration. And we see the World Trade Center stuff on the news. And it was so real that I thought it was a movie, because I mean, I didn't think that was even, you know, it was mind-blowing. It took me, I was speechless when I found out that it was real. And immediately we were given no time to return to the ship and await orders. We were first response expeditionary unit.
And the first thing that goes through my mind is like this horror. And I realized that not only is the guy that I absolutely love more than anybody else in the whole earth on a boat that is supposed to defend our country, the first response unit, but so is every one of my friends in California at that moment.
We left Australia and went to Pakistan, and we debarked all of our gear, and we prepared to invade Afghanistan. I can't even describe what was going through our minds at this point. You know, we trained for 6 years to do this. You know, I've been in the Marines for 6 years and a million field ops, and you know, we've shot our weapons hundreds of times, never at anyone, or never. It always seemed like a game up until this point. You know, here I am, 24 years old, a baby in real life, and I got, you know, these 16 guys that are all looking to me like, what do we do? How do we, what's next? And I'm figuring it out myself, and so I'm just waiting for the next guy, the next higher up, to tell me what to do, because I'm clueless. We sat and waited, and the day came. It was Thanksgiving, and we get the call, and they say, "You guys are up."
And so, like I said, I was glued to the television for about 5 days. And then I realized that no matter how much information I have, I can't protect him. I can't change anything that's going to happen to him or my friends. So I just boycotted all news media, television, newspapers. I was in sales at the time, and customers would come in talking, "Did you hear about we're going to bomb blah, blah, blah?" And shh, I don't want to know. It's really important. So it was very hard.
And, you know, when we moved in, it wasn't, you know, an assault like you would picture in the movies with the Marines coming in blazing. It was, all that had been done through the air. It was the leftovers. So it was, you know, pieces. pieces of a body.
One of the things I always loved about Gino was his childlike, adventurous self. He was always the person to wanted to start the parties and like get people together and do things, and he was very, very social. When he got back, none of that was there. Not like 1 ounce of it.
Things were really surreal at first. I was really happy to be home. All I wanted to do was be with Erin. She immediately noticed a difference in me. Here now, I was extremely vigilant about everything, and that's just, in my mind, that was normal because I just came from combat, and you have to be that way over there to survive. You know, I mean, every sound, everything you analyze as potential threat. So that's the mind frame I was in, and I thought, okay, well, you know, this will go away as I decompress from that.
And that's pretty much when I made the decision whether to stick by my friend or not, because I had to do some soul searching. Do I have it in me? It's a conscious decision that he may never come back. But do you just leave your friend hanging like that? Probably not.
I went through that couple of months of basically checking out. I got my honorable discharge, and my next step was to look for a job.
FedEx was one of his first employments after the Marine Corps, and it seemed like it was going to be a perfect fit for him.
And that's a very high stress job. They put a lot of pressure on you. Before combat, high stress, that was me. I was face to face all the time with high stress, and that's where I thrived. I worked an industrial route, so I had, every morning my truck was just packed. I'd ride to my first stop with packages under my seat, in my lap. That was an everyday thing with me, and then one day, it was just too much.
He called me one day and told me he was dying. I'm like, oh, that's great. He said, no, really, I can't breathe right now. This is my last breath.
My heart's racing, and I'm sweating, and I felt like my blood pressure was just through the roof. And I felt so awful that I had to lay down. And I laid down in the grass at the FedEx terminal, right in front of the sign that said FedEx. I was very athletic, and that never crossed my mind, my heartbeat, you know? My heart was always strong, and something's wrong with me, you know, something's going on. I think I'm having a heart attack or a stroke or something, you know? I don't feel right.
So I took him to the emergency room. We went to the emergency room during that job 3 or 4 times. I'm not quite sure how many times we went. Finally, we were there pretty late, so I think it was like the second shift doctor. He's like, has anybody ever mentioned that this might be mental? I said, thank you. So glad that somebody else said it. That's pretty much when we started working on therapies and stuff. But it was very, very slow. It wasn't just like walk in and say, oh, well, we think you have PTSD, now go get help. That is so far from the truth. They just give him different drugs, and none of it works. Nobody sits down and talks to him.
He gave me Xanax, and he gave me a prescription. He said, take 2 of these a day, and we'll come back in 6 weeks, and we'll see how you're doing. So I took the medication, and I noticed that I couldn't function really on Xanax. I would take it and immediately go to sleep, and then I would wake up and I just was groggy all the time. So I didn't take it unless I needed it. They gave me fluoxetine, which is Prozac. That one I started to notice an effect on me where I didn't have any highs or lows. I didn't have anything. I was just flat the whole time. And that's when I started to notice, I said, maybe this medication isn't helping me. It's just making me numb to everything. We were on this very intense road trip to visit my cousin in northern Michigan. I don't get along with my family very well. I'm a lot different than them. So I was on edge the whole weekend. My friend was watching our cat, and we couldn't get a hold of him. You know, I was worried about our animal, and because we had received a message from him that she had gotten out.
The next day we wake up, he's still really upset about it. He's like, I don't understand. I just can't stop thinking about it. This is just awful. I can't believe he would do something like this. And I'm driving and we're trying to talk this over. I realize that this is a new place we've never been to.
I was so enraged that I was vibrating. I literally could feel my muscles vibrating. It was building and building. I was talking to Aaron and I was like, I don't want to feel this way. And I just kept saying, why can't I let this go? Why can't I get over this? You know, and it literally drove me mad. I drove myself mad and had like a blackout fit.
It didn't stop. Like that rage, like it went on. I don't think I know what to do here, which is a new place for me.
I don't know what it must have looked like, but I just started punching the dashboard and ripping at the dashboard, and I completely destroyed this dashboard in a rental car. When I stopped my episode of rage, I immediately broke down into like an emotional release. Like I just collapsed in the seat and was crying, and I felt ashamed for what just happened, and I didn't want to. Those thoughts I was having really violent thoughts about my friend, and it was scaring me inside, and I didn't want to have those thoughts, but I couldn't stop them.
I'm scared. He says that to me, and I go, oh, all right. Now I have no idea what to do. Day to day, back to back, like I can't remember how many days it was. He broke a TV tray because he threw it. He kicked an ottoman. Just, I guess, trying to release some of whatever the pressure was building up inside, and it was just awful.
The minute something went the wrong way for me, it was right back. I was right back to the red. I call it seeing red. I had just broken a chair in our house. I kicked my foot right through the wood in the chair, and my animals were hiding. I mean, it was just, I was getting violent to things.
And he was at work when he had to leave. This rage just overwhelmed him, and he had to leave.
So I took myself to the VA. I said, I'm going to the VA right now. I need to see somebody right now. There was a girl sitting there, and I said, I need to see somebody. And she said, do you have an appointment? I said, no. And she said, well, we don't have the mental health department anymore. The VA doesn't have mental health. With all the vets that are committing suicide and all the post-traumatic stress and all the issues, all I needed was someone to tell me I wasn't crazy and that I was gonna get through this, because Erin didn't think I was gonna she's like, I don't know how to help you. I don't know what you need. This is the first time ever. I don't have an answer for you. And that scared me, because she'd been my rock forever.
I reached out to everyone I knew that was in any sort of therapy, anything, and said, if you know of anybody, please help. And one number came back, and it was Terry's. It was he was not only the first, the last, he was the only option that we had. And he saved our lives.
Terry, he asked me to sit down and take a seat, and he says to me, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what I do. I listen to your story. After I hear your story, I'm gonna give you some tools to work with. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not gonna give you medication, I'm not gonna fix your problems. All I'm gonna do is listen to your story.
He did this amazing thing called a genogram. And it was the first time Gino had ever seen his entire story spelled out like that, and where the beginning of all this frustration and all of these things that he'd been carrying for all those years came from.
And then he explained to me, I'm gonna ask you some questions about your family, and we're gonna cover the first 18 years of your life. You know, before you're 12, you're kind of sticking your foot in the water and testing it out. And then when you get 12, that's when you jump off the dock. And so we're gonna get to the bottom of that, of those core values that you have. There was a lot of ugliness there. There was stuff there that I haven't told a stranger before that I was very embarrassed and nervous about talking about. There was a reason I was messed up. There's a reason I'm having these problems. I never had a childhood. It was very therapeutic for me to talk about it because obviously it had an effect on me. I was crying and falling to pieces. And I said, well, wow, maybe there's something there.
And he came home and it's almost like this glow started to come back.
And then he's like, I'm gonna give you a couple of books. And I'm like, oh, this guy's trying to give me Jesus stuff. I was like, we were getting somewhere.
And he gave Gino a book called The Sayings of Jesus. A couple days later, we were going through the same thing. He was back right at this rage, and it was so disappointing. You could see the defeat in his face. He's like, oh, I thought we were on the right track. I thought we were going, why do I feel like this again? I said, well, we've got this book. I don't know. He handed us this book. If nothing else, maybe it'll distract us enough for this rage to stop.
And to hear her say that, I was shocked by it because she had the same view I did on religion, and we didn't see the good in it because we never really paid attention to it. It's been that our whole lives, you know, this one says this one says that. These people tell me I'm going to hell. You know, it's like we never bought into it.
Well, I was definitely afraid that it was going to be some sort of religious, cultish kind of thing. Anybody who was trying to, quote unquote, sell Jesus didn't turn out to be great people.
I didn't know what else to do. I knew I was crying. I'm sitting on the floor of my kitchen, and I don't want to be here anymore. So I picked up the one that said Jesus. I picked up the Sayings of Jesus. I opened the first page. I just started reading it out loud. And as I'm reading it, it's hitting me in the face. I'm hearing struggle and pain and suffering and all this stuff that is very relative to the way I'm feeling right now. And I just lost it emotionally, and I couldn't put it down.
This experience is more about myself and the questions that I have, and walking with me through how I feel about the information that's been given, not force-fed any sort of take on it.
We were talking about Jesus on the way to work. She said something that I'll never forget. She said, you know, regardless of whether or not you believe in Jesus, just try to believe Jesus. He obviously had a huge impact, and still to this day has affected billions of people. Listen to what the message that he's trying to convey is. And once I was able to read the material in that way, it opened my eyes to a whole new world. It made me hungry for that. And Terry reinforced that. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, and I think all veterans need help, even if they think they don't. There's something in there that needs to be unprogrammed. For so long, I was afraid. I mean, they teach you to not ask for help. They instill that in your instinct is to not ask for help, to suck it up is the term. And they actually frown on you for getting help. Here I am laying on the grass outside of FedEx because I didn't want to ask for help. It got to that point. It got to the point of me driving myself to the emergency room and asking for help out of fear for my life. And it doesn't have to be that way. I'm not perfect now. I still have problems, but I have a whole new outlook.